I don't know who the guy is, but I know the guy is out there, or the woman is
Sure.
out there. So I'll
Sure.
say the coach. The coach is out there. I don't know where, but if it's one thing I can count on, is this current Knicks front office has their hands across the NBA. They are in all corners of the NBA. They like shadow brokers, they're analytics, they're cap dudes. They have their connections through various agencies and previous working relationships. You got guys like Worldwide West, who's the most connected. They'll find somebody. If they don't have, I'm sure they have their targets, but I'm also sure that they will find somebody. But I don't think this is the arduous task that some folks are making it out to be. You have a criteria. It's similar to quarterbacks in the NFL. Organizations value certain things. Based on your valuation, you find the person that best fits it and you move forward. They need to identify what they want from this roster, because I think that's another telling thing, right?
Agreed.
Firing Tibbs means we running it back with these players. There's going to be some changes here and there, some tweaks. And at this point with Leon Rose, expect the unexpected. You ain't safe. You ain't safe until opening night, right? So I do expect there to be some personnel changes, but nothing sweeping. This is the first move. If this crop and this core can't get it together, if it's one thing about Leon Rose, he doesn't wait and he's not sentimental. He doesn't have the capacity or the luxury of being sentimental. He was hired to do a job, and that's what he's going to do. You saw it when they broke up the Nova Knicks. You've seen it in other aspects. Tibbs is the preferred coach of your A1 player, your main guy. Mm-hmm. Business is business. So I have the utmost faith that they can do it because their track record proves that the Knicks fans should put the full weight of their support into whoever Leon Rose hires. Having said that, Mike Malone, no.
I'm going.
I heard Budenholzer and I almost jumped out my window.
Oh, no, man. Come on.
Because look, if you was going to do that, you might as well have kept Tibbs.
I agree. I agree with you. What about? I'm gonna throw another name at you for that. You know, the people that like the names, Jeff, are gonna say this. Monty Williams.
Who?
I think if you're going to do this and you're going to replace Tom Thibodeau, which the Knicks are going to do, you need a philosophical change. A lot of people are throwing out Mike Malone when people within basketball would say Mike Malone is very similar to Tom Thibodeau and is also not coming with Nikola Jokic.
Are you saying that he's not as good without Jokic? Is that what you're saying?
We don't know, to be fair. I know he's from Queens, so am I, but like I'm not sure if that's different enough philosophically for them. But Taylor Jenkins is one person I feel like is going to be under discussed. And obviously, the Knicks know, I think, what they want, who they want, what they're looking for. But can you speak to him or anybody else that you think, oh, this would make sense if you're making a philosophical shift from Tom Thibodeau?
I think Jenkins is a bright basketball mind, and it's interesting because this Knicks team in many ways is the opposite of what that Memphis Grizzlies team is, right? That was a young team that was up and coming that he sort of helped mold and develop, right?
Right.
And it was the only coach that Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane had up until the end of this season when he was fired, right? And there was talk around Memphis, not only in the fan base, but around people in the organization of Taylor just not being the right guy for this group now that they are at this new level, right? In that he might have been too lax in certain areas and their habits that this team being the Grizzlies, weren't able to break because he was not able to instill that in them. Well, those habits are already there because this is a veteran team from the New York Knicks, right? So perhaps a more, I don't want to say lax, but a more loose environment where, again, he would rotate and would play different guys as well from a tactical standpoint, a different strategy. I think that would be very interesting. I don't know, though, that Taylor Jenkins is suited for the New York City market. You know, in Memphis, you're a big fish in a small pond, right? Like the team goes on a losing streak. All right, it's a thing, but it's not a thing, right? They start the season next year. Let's say you're high Taylor Jenkins and they go 7-10. Like it's going to be pitchforks and calling for his head, right? Like, I mean, that's just how it works, right? The back pages every other day. Like, all the stuff they're going to say about him. So I don't know if he is the right makeup. I think he's a bright basketball mind. I don't know about the daily grind of the back pages and all that and dealing with talk radio. And I don't know if that is right for him, but it would be interesting. I think, again, the Knicks need to start looking outside of traditional areas to think about whom they might want to hire. Look at Mark Daigneault, right? He coached Oklahoma City Blue. That's how and then he went to coach the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's how he got that job. I know Malone's going to be popular. He's going to be even whispers probably about Steve Kerr out there, right? Like, re-flirting with the team. The team is in a better place than they were when they tried to get him the first time. So maybe, right? But to your point, Brian, he ain't bringing Steph Curry with him, so it might be a little bit different. But also, to be fair, Kerr will bring a completely different philosophy. As you know, Kerr hates stagnant ISO like that. That is it's allergic. He wants to throw up in his mouth when he sees that kind of basketball, right? So he will bring a completely different style. Do the Knicks want to play that motion-based, constant read, react, moving offense? I don't know, right? I don't know.
Johnny Bryant is obviously getting very popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting. We can talk about him.
I do too.
Rick Pitino. I'm being dead serious.
Wait,
Patrick Ewing ain't walking through that door. Oh wait, is that was it? No, you ain't.
That's the one. That's the one on his list, Jarod. That I was like, no. One,
I don't think they. I don't know if they should.
I don't think Rick Pitino.
And I don't. And I wouldn't. If I were him, I would not. I would just stay at St. John's.
I don't see him
but
doing that. I think he likes it.
I'm just saying, if you wake up one day and you're like, or if you wake up tomorrow and it's like, oh, Rick Pitino's in the mix, I would be like, yeah, I could see that. Doesn't surprise me a ton. Sam Cassell. He hasn't gotten a head coaching shot yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's been an assistant for a long time.
Do you want this to be his first head coaching spot?
Right. I don't. But again, wouldn't surprise me. Jay Wright.
Interesting name. Look, and to be fair, right? This idea of because you've never done it before doesn't mean you can't, right? We don't have to even go that far back to look at it. Look at Joe Mazzulla in Boston, right?
But this is now a championship or bust. This is a championship or bust sort of hiring now, or at least finals or bust sort of hiring.
I mean, that's what Joe Mazzulla was it not? They went to the finals the year before and the training camp the next year.
Different circumstances, though. Because Joe Mazzulla wouldn't have been the coach if Ime Udoka wasn't messing around.
My point being is that, again, just because it's someone you have never heard of doesn't mean that person can't be good, right? Like they very well could be. Again, the Knicks in New York offer a unique situation in that, can you handle all the BS around New York? And if you can, and you have a great basketball mind, because look, this team is excellent, right? I've talked about it a million times, Dex. The starting five of the New York Knicks is elite. I'd argue their top six is elite if you add Josh Hart, if he's coming up, or Mitchell Robinson, depending on whoever is coming off the bench.
Sure,
that's a great top six.
Yep.
The issue is you cannot win a championship with just six in today's NBA. That's what that is. So who else you got on there that can do some stuff? And will this new coach create that environment where that's possible?
I think Johnny Bryant, who's familiar with the organization, is good. It's almost like the Mark Daigneault thing. Mark Daigneault was within the system of the organization, coaching the G League. They bring him up. Johnny Bryant has some of the same ties to the players. I know some of the players he was really close with, like Randall, are gone.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think about him as a name? Because he's a name I think that will be very intriguing, considering he knows the New York market's been here already. Even though it's his first time head coaching job, I say why not?
I love it because, again, I think he's modern, and I think he'll have different ideas about how to run an offense. Remember, last season he was under Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland with the Cavaliers, right? So, and we know Kenny learned a great deal being with Steve Kerr in Golden State and took that over to Cleveland. And remember, playoffs. What happened in the playoffs aside, again, Indiana was just a buzzsaw, and Cleveland also had health issues. The way Cleveland played basketball, especially offensive basketball this season, was a revelation, right? Like they took another layer, another step in their journey, in their evolution as players. And I love it. I think, look, single high pick and roll is all well and good. But if you don't have those kinds of players, that caliber, and again, when we're parsing out elite talent in the NBA, like Jalen Brunson is elite, but Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic is a different level of elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like completely different. And so the idea of playing tough basketball and not getting quality shots. Remember, I told you, Dex, this was my concern about the Knicks, in that I thought their ceiling for a championship was not high because they're counting on him, on Jalen to literally hit tough shots for 4 straight rounds. And I just didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, you told me you didn't think it was sustainable. You
Right.
didn't think it was something they could do. Yeah.
There has to be another way to get him easier shots. And you do that by having a more evolved offense. So I love the idea of Johnny Bryant, right? Again, someone who understands ball movement, player movement, off ball cutting, right? Again, things that make the defense shift, react, and think, right? Which is what Oklahoma City does, which is what Indiana does, which is what Golden State does, right? Which is what some of the best offenses in the league do, right? The constant motion.
I don't have an easy answer, and that's why I probably would have kept Tom Thibodeau as my head coach, to be totally honest with you. Look, I think you make the phone call to Jay Wright. I think that's a conversation you have, especially given his ability to play 5 out with a shooting big man like Karl-Anthony Towns.
That's a
I
good
think
point.
that's a conversation you have, and is obviously his relationship to Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. I think that's a conversation. I think, Johnny Bryant's a guy they have a lot of internal knowledge about. So if they believe that he's going to be a great coach, I would feel better about that than bringing in some assistant off another staff they don't have a great feel for. I mean, you always look at somebody off of Spoelstra's staff. He's a great staff. I think those are the guys you look at. I've heard Mike Brown's name mentioned around a little bit. I think he's a fine NBA head coach, but is he a better head coach than Tom Thibodeau? I don't know if that's the case, to be honest with you. So, and if anyone tells you Mark Jackson should be the next head coach, you just know never to listen to that person and their NBA takes ever again. No, it's the perfect Rorschach test. If you think Mark Jackson should coach the Knicks, don't respect anything that person has to say about basketball.
I've actually heard Mark Jackson's name.
Yes, I've heard.
I've literally blocked people on Twitter immediately when I see that tape come up.
Yeah.
John, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Just because if they're doing this, it feels like they're going to change something philosophically. And it feels like it's going to be not Michael Malone, essentially, who I think would be very similar to Tom Thibodeau.
And that's why I didn't mention his name, by the way. I agree.
Exactly.
I noticed that.
So I think if you're going to change philosophically, who do you think would be the ideal fit? Like, we toss out a bunch of names in terms of who it may be, but who would you want, I guess, would be the question.
Mike D'Antoni type coach. I'm not saying you bring back Mike D'Antoni himself, but I think assuming this roster is going to stay the same, and I think that's the second part of this conversation we have to have, right? You need someone that's going to maximize what Karl-Anthony Towns gives you offensively, because there is not a coach on this planet that can make him a good defensive player. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
I'm not trying to be insulting. He's been in the league for 11 years and he consistently has the same issues. That's not going to change.
Right.
It's just not. As a big 7-footer gets older, he's not going to become more agile, right? He's not going to become, if he didn't become a smarter defender yet, it's not going to start now. So you have to find somebody to maximize what he can give you offensively if you're going to use him as your center. I think bringing in a college coach is risky. Billy Donovan's had some level of success at it. I did not mention Danny Hurley for a reason, by the way. I just don't think his temperament would work with pros and with the New York media.
Yep.
I think that would be a implosion by December where you're like, oh my gosh, this was just a horrible mistake.
No, I think he's right. I think John is right.
I think that would go south very quickly. I
agree.
And by the way,
I would not be fan of it.
And I'm a big Danny Hurley fan. I covered him when he was the head coach of Wagner in Staten Island. I was doing games for the NEC. I know Danny. He's a good dude. He's a good coach. I'm just not sure this would be the right fit for him. And I would not hire Jay Wright just to mollify Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the ultimate team player. He will play hard and play well for whatever coach you hire. You hire Jay Wright because you think he's the best coach to lead you to a championship. Brunson's going to be on board with whatever you do. Now, do you consult him? Do you talk to him? Absolutely. But look, this is probably, I'm not going to say his last chance, but does Leon Rose get a chance to hire a third head coach? I don't know the answer to that. He probably should. I think he's done.
I mean, Sean Marks has hired 4 coaches across the town. So,
I think Leon Rose has done a great job. I'm not advocating for him to lose his job. He's been fantastic and wonderful. He's brought the Knicks out of the abyss. I have nothing bad to say about Leon Rose. But he has to hire a guy here. What do they have? A 2-3 year window at most? At most, NBA windows. Everyone thought the Celtics had this 3-year window, and now all of a sudden their window's gone because Jason Tatum tore his Achilles tendon, and their window's gone. It's just gone. So there's no all right, let's see if this works and figure it out. No, you need to have somebody ready that you can bring in and can win in year one. There is no developing a coach. There's no waiting around. That's out. Forget that. Like, this guy's be ready to go right now. So Jay Wright's a guy that knows how to win. He's a good coach, but again, it's college and not the pro. So that's a question the Knicks are going to have to answer when they make that decision. But I would not make that move just because it would make Jalen Brunson happy, because I have enough faith in the captain that he's a guy that no matter who you bring in, he's going to get with the system, he's going to support the head coach, and he's going to be a real good leader for this team. As someone that's a older Knicks fan like me, I will throw out, like, if I could wave my wand and make something happen that would make me the most satisfied I've maybe ever been as a Knicks fan, this is what would happen. Keep in mind, this is completely unrealistic and it's never going to happen. But this is my like dream scenario, that Pat Riley walks into his office tomorrow and there's a fax waiting for him from Eric Spoelstra, and he's resigning.
And he comes to coach the Knicks. The reverse 95 team? I'm here.
That's what I want. It's never going to happen. But my God, how sweet would that be if that reality somehow became like what actually happened? That would be great. Oh, it would be so funny too. I'd love it.
That'd be hilarious.